On the Choose to Think podcast, I will encourage and empower you to engage and optimize your best thought life in practical, meaningful ways so that you can live day by day in joy, peace, and God's purpose despite all externals. This is Victoria, and welcome back to the Choose to Think podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, everybody, to the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast. I am so delighted to be here today and equally delighted to introduce to you Jane Jenkins Herlong. Welcome to the show, Jane.
Oh, thank you, Victoria. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. You're going to be just such a treat. I already know it for the listeners and for the viewers. And I want to tell you all a little bit about Jane. I'm reading from her bio now. She's a Sirius XM, and that is pronounced Sirius. Is that correct? Sirius. Yeah, I got that right. Okay.
Radio.
Sirius XM Southern humorist, international best-selling, award-winning author, professional singer. I've heard you sing, Jane. I heard you on one of those YouTube. Beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my goodness. You are a recording artist, professional speaker. Jane is an inductee into the prestigious Speaker Hall of Fame, is the author of 5 books, including her latest offering. And we're going to dig into this one, Sweet Tea Secrets from the Deep Fried South.
Yes.
I love that. We all know about sweet tea. And apparently Kentucky doesn't have it. You know, I'm here in Kentucky and we just don't quite do sweet tea like it may be made further south. But anyway, you are a former Miss America contestant, and Jane now crisscrosses the country sharing her unique brand of sweet tea wisdom and Southern fried humor. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the book. So you bring joy and humor with 50 unusual but true faith-filled stories of growing up in South Carolina Lowcountry. And whether you love Southern ways of life or find their ways strange and amusing, you'll be entertained and inspired with warm Southern fried humor and tried and true tips for attaining the best version of yourself. Jane's 50 stories address specific landmark events along with issues in a woman's life, such as fitting into the covered dish church culture, sacred sisterhood, sassy, seasoned Southern women, and why we are drawn to beauty pageant competitions and much more. So, oh my goodness, I tell you, what an intro. And, you know, right out of the gate, I'm just going to ask such a profoundly deep question. How on earth do you attain the best version of yourself? How do we do that?
I think, Victoria, you have to have courage. I do. I think you have to be willing to fall flat on your face, only to get back up. And I say the best 4-letter word in the English language is next. But you'll never know you're next until you learn how to be a successful failure. And you just can't let things cripple you, paralyze you. And I have a heart for my own kind, and you know, for women who let the world try to direct them into a path. And I think we need to be all God created us to be and not be afraid to be that person. And we have to know where we fit into our lane. Our lanes are super important because people don't really want to think these days. So you tell them where your lane is. And so I know my lane, and I know from my experiences growing up, God bless my family, I felt like what was lacking was biblical principles to be successful. But my gift is combining humor and humorous Southern stories and then going to that biblical principle, whether it's through a scripture or whether it's through just saying, you know, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. Well, all that says is, you know, try to find happiness and joy, not just happiness. That comes from happenings, but joy is so deep. So I think that's where I fit in. And I know exactly, you know, my wheelhouse.
Okay, so how do we women and men, how do we avoid being afraid? In other words, I love it. You say a successful failure, and just don't be afraid and do what's next and keep pushing. But what are the fears that actually hold us back, and how do we overcome those?
I think a lot of people have the fear of rejection
Mm.
and opinions from other people. And you've just got to look at that. It's like when you get a bad review, like when you're speaking somewhere, somebody says something. Well, you know what? They might not be having a good day, a good week, or heck, a good life for all we know. We don't know where these people have traveled. So I think when you dive into it, you have to be willing to be a risk taker.
Mm.
And I think if it's something, I was reading my devotional this morning, and I think if it's something that you know that God has for you in your path, you feel comfort and peace. It's when we get kind of crazy, and that should be a sign like, this might not be in my wheelhouse. Maybe this is not the direction the Lord wants me to go in. It's too stressful.
Mm.
So we have to kind of stay prayed up. But I feel sorry for people that sit back in their lives and wonder, what if? Oh, Lord, don't let me be that. The what if person. I'd rather say, oh, I tried that and I really worked hard at it, and I just felt I wasn't led to do that. I don't want to ever, that would be my go-to phrase prayerfully. I don't want to ever say, I thought about it, but when people have dreams, Victoria, and share them with me, like I was just talking to, I was on a talk show, and this woman, she was incredible. And she had gallbladder surgery, and she had 200 gallstones. And she
Wow.
yeah, I loved her. She had 200, she showed everybody. And all of a sudden, we all started playing with the name of a book. I said, do you have the gall to serve the Lord? My journey through stones and rocks. I mean, Jesus had a stone rolled away, and the Israelites walked across the Red Sea with stones, and then Abraham built the sacrificial altar. And I'm thinking, there's so many stones. Stephen was stoned. Can you think of all these references to stone?
Yeah. Do you want to throw the first stone? Right.
I gotta remind her of that. So that's, so take it, pray, run with it. And you might go this way at the fork. You might go that way. You might go straight. You might go backwards. It's okay. Just go somewhere.
So you also seem to know your lane, like you mentioned a moment ago, but can you describe a time in your life when maybe you were unsure of your lane? Or have you ever thought, Jane, like, I'm done with this, just trying to be humorous or find the funny in something? Or have you ever just like, I'm done, I'm not doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Discouraged?
Yeah, I know not to speak in Minnesota. I mean, I know. I know this crowd. Wait a minute. I told a funny story, and I thought, really, I need to get back to the South.
That's
They were
right.
so offended. It was almost funny. Like, really? I got another one. So, you just have to say people come from different angles, and I don't know from whence these folks come. I never, I mean, the Bible says you don't judge people, but I am a very good fruit inspector. I am very good at that. I have learned that. But I think that there have been times of discouragement, and I just get on my knees and say, Lord, give me some encouragement. Give me, I have a really funny story I have to tell you. It's about my friend in Sunday school. He gave me it's like gold. It was so good. He said he just knew he was going to fail from boot camp. He was 17, and he got on his knees. He said, oh God, I need you. I need a sign. I need a message. And he looked on his dog tags after he prayed, and he saw be positive. He went, oh my goodness. And he changed, and everybody noticed it. And one of his buddies said, I thought you were going home. He said, man, God sent me a message. Look on my dog tags, be positive. And the fellow said, yeah, you want to see my message from God? Oh, negative. So he didn't know it was his blood type. So but Victoria, that's a biblical principle. So as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if you think you're a failure, guess what? You're gonna be.
So how do we change that? Like, what if we do get stuck in negative thinking, or if we're putting ourselves down? what do we do to, I mean, this guy made a radical change, like, okay, that's from God. I'm gonna, by golly, I'm gonna be positive. But is it just that, like that sudden, okay, I'm gonna shift this and that takes care of it? Or what do we do?
Well, I'll tell you what my friend Susie Humphrey said in a speech one time, and I loved it. I asked permission to put it in one of my books. She said, "Oh, you're depressed? Good. Get that old nasty robe with all the stains on it. Put it on. Get in bed. Put on some mascara. Put on a lot of mascara. Waterproof, and cry. I mean, wail. Think about dead pets. Think about everything that you've ever had happen. Go ahead, do it now." About 10 minutes later, get up out of bed and look at yourself. Don't you? And then she said, "No, take off your makeup, put on appropriate makeup and pretty clothes, and go get some Mexican. Make you feel better." I love that. I mean, she says, "Yeah, get into it." Really. And then all of a sudden you go, "I'm sick of this."
Right. Yeah, not to make light of depression and so forth. I know that, but it reminds me of, I had my dear mentor friend of mine. She said she knew me so well, and she came through my whole journey of learning to take thoughts captive, and she's watched the transformation in me by my attempts with God's help to renew my mind. But there were times after that healing had taken place in my life, and I'd call her and I'd be like, Jeannie, and I would just start pouring out all of this complaint and all of my issues. And she said, "Now hold on, Victoria, you want to go down to the pit?" And I'm like, because she always told me, "You go down to the pit, you eat dirt." And I'm like, "Jeannie, I just need a little dirt today. I just got to go down there and eat a little dirt. It won't be long. It won't be much." She said, "Okay, I'll go with you, and then we'll come right back out." So it kind of reminds me of that, where you do give yourself permission just for a little bit to be expressive, and this is what's going on, and this is how I feel, and this is what stinks. But then after that, you dust yourself off and go eat Mexican or whatever. So
when I would call my friends when I was going through a rough time, and they started answering the phone, "Now what?" instead of "Hello," I knew that I had to go I went to a Christian counselor, and he was great, so
Yeah.
I mean, I encourage that. There's no shame in being better,
Yes. So being the best version of ourselves, then if I'm hearing you right, then Jane, it means, okay, we're going to kind of step into God's purpose, what he has for us in our lane, expecting it's not going to be a cakewalk every single day. There will be challenges that we face, but kind of take charge also of our feelings and emotions, really just take them back. We don't have to be, just go on every current that our feelings or emotion takes us. We can resist some of that a little bit and step up, get our backbone engaged, and just say, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going to go down into that pit. Or if I allow myself for a little bit, okay, I'm human. Now I'm going to get back on the road and do what God's intended. How did you know that you were going to live your life? Can we call you a comedian? I mean, is that okay? Or do you prefer humorist? Is that the new word?
The difference is, instead of the little quippy, comedian things, we just are storytellers. We tell stories.
Oh, so there is a difference. Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
Yeah, I love the fast, funny things, but I love the storytelling because it's an art, the pause. I was just on the phone this morning with my humor coach, and I said, "Lou, I got a story, and you got to help me fluff it up a little bit." So it got he and I were in hysterics laughing because it really happened. And, we take, and this is why it's so interesting with the book. I got an email from this film agency, is a United Talent Agency, and they're reputable. And they asked me if the rights were available for the film, and they are. I mean, for the book to be a film. Gotcha. I don't know where this is going. I just have no idea. I got to get the literary agent on that. But I started thinking about, why would somebody want this book in a film? Just throwing it out, just thinking big, And as I started thinking of some of the stories, I'm thinking, well, of course they would. People say, ain't no way. And it did. It happened. I sang at a tent revival not too far from here, and it was in the woods, close to the woods. And the preacher is a very interesting guy, very colorful, a lot of fun. And so a lot of little country folks, and you're from Kentucky, so you got the southern drawl going. Say, preacher, there's some people that ain't come back to serve the Lord tonight because they said there's snakes. There's all over the place. And my friend said, oh, that's just the devil talking. Ain't no snakes. He said, people just don't want you to come and worship Jesus. That's wrong. You come back. And the guy walks off, and I looked at the preacher and I said, oh my goodness, the way people make up stories. He said, there's snakes everywhere. You ain't seen them. They coming out of the woods. I'm going, I mean, that's just one. I mean, can you imagine somebody who doesn't understand Southern culture pick up that book and go, oh my gosh, this really happened? I said, yeah. I've got all kinds of funny stories. I mean, how many times I accepted Jesus and walking in front of the TV because we couldn't afford to go to see Billy Graham. And I was so afraid I didn't get him the first time, and I went down, more and more and more. Then I had somebody scold me. He said, you're saved. I said, I didn't know. I wasn't schooled in that. I was an Episcopalian. I didn't know how you got to Jesus. I finally found him in the Baptist church, but I just kept accepting him. I told somebody I was afraid I was going to be stuck in pluff mud getting eaten by fiddler crabs, like little. So,
right.
So of course people are going to be looking at that book going, oh my gosh. And Southern people just, oh, that is so true. That is so funny, So it's got a lot of those nuances in it. And I do think that as a humorist, how I knew was my mother was very funny. I mean, she'd go get that big jacked up to Jesus hairdo every Wednesday. Be smoking those God, that's why she's not here today. The little camels,
Yeah.
Had the little window tipped with all the smoke and the wingtip with the rhinestones on it, and she just, I felt like I was on the Jack Parr show. Have that cigarette smoke, and she'd talk about everybody. Well, she was just telling stories and making out. I thought, Mom's got so many friends. So I knew then I got humor from my mother, the way she saw things. She always say, find the humor, and don't let anybody take from you what God put on your heart. And then Tootsie, who raised me since I was 5 months old, was my other mama. Yeah. And she would say, and God, don't let nobody take the sugar that God done put in your heart. Because I know how to speak. So I love all that. What it means is be joyful, have a merry heart, and don't let people, Victoria, my lane for friends is so small. I don't do, when you're young, you go, I have 1,000 friends. I probably have 3. I don't care about all. I want people that love me, affirm me, build me up, and they're secure in themselves. And that's why your lane for friends gets real teeny, And I mean, I'll get rid of one in the name of Jesus in a nice way, but I'm not gonna have all that. I'm just not.
No, you're not a drama queen, are you?
No, I don't need all that. I've done that, been there, done that, not interested.
That's right. Do you have a favorite story of all the stories you ever tell? Do you have a favorite one to tell?
Yeah, I do. This is what's called signature story. I've got.
Okay. Tell us.
Well, how I met my husband, I was dating this really cute astronaut. Let that just sink right in. He is just very. And so I had prayed and I said, Lord, let me know. And I tell these young people, I said, y'all pray for your husband. We haven't met him yet. That's the point. So when you meet him, you'll go, oh, I'm quickened, So,
right.
So I was Miss South Carolina. It was after Miss America. And I was dating the hottie astronaut. He's in the book as I told him he was going to be the hottie astronaut in the book. And so I need to send him a copy.
That's right.
You might not appreciate it. But anyway, that ship has sailed, so that's all right. So my business manager called me and she said, Jane Thomas Herlong said you could sit by him at this banquet in Myrtle Beach. And I said, now, Rita, did you tell him I'm in a relationship? She said, oh, yes. And he's in a relationship too. And I said, oh, I know who he is. He lives in a little small podunk town, how pitiful. And I said, who's his little country bumpkin girlfriend he's in a relationship with? And she said, Miss America, the girl that beat you, which was Cheryl Pruitt, whom I love. And she won. She was Miss Mississippi. And
Oh,
so it was so funny. So it's a much longer story, but I'll condense it a little bit. So
okay.
the punchline is that Thomas and I sat down and we both knew that we were meant for each other. That's 42 years ago. 42.
Congratulations. That's
Yes. So we had
wonderful.
one date and he proposed and I said yes. And he asked me to marry him at a meet and three. It was very unromantic, but whatever, you know. So I tell people, no, I did not win Miss America, but I married her boyfriend. I did.
Yeah, what is a meet and three?
That's one of these little greasy places that are all over the South, you know.
Okay.
I'm
And did
meeting.
you say you had one date with him?
Yes.
And
That's
then
how,
he proposed?
yes, I was traveling. I was doing my queen stuff and the plane landed and he was there and we went to an event at a friend's house and he asked me to marry him and I said yes. It was a week,
I
but
mean,
we
did he
knew it.
just say, "Would you marry me?" Is
Yeah.
that, did he get on his knee?
No, we were at that greasy spoon place.
He wasn't about to do that.
I asked him later, I said, why did you propose at the Lizard's Thicket? I thought you were going to take me to a nice restaurant.
That's right.
It's just, oh. He said, yeah, between the collards and the sweet potatoes. I said, yeah, that was romantic. I should have known. But anyway, I mean, it's a longer story because
I gotcha. Yeah.
I called him to judge a beauty pageant and I asked him, I knew he was a cute guy. And I asked him what he'd been doing. He's very flat talking. Oh God, that's the dog.
That's okay.
He said, I don't know why she's barking.
So, you know
dog
what?
sitting.
Well, let me tell you, I've got Rico the Morkie right here, and my little 5-pound doggy, and he always makes the show. So now maybe, what's this dog's name?
Maggie.
Maggie is trying to.
Maggie's my watchdog because Gloria's here to help me today.
Gloria. Okay.
Hey girl. Anyway, let me shut the
You're fine. You are just fine. It's no
Gloria,
worries.
honey, I'm on a Zoom meeting. Just let me shut the door, okay? Can you shut the door for me? I'm on a Zoom. Thank you, darling. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I love her. Anyway, sorry about that.
No problem.
So when I called him up and I said, hello, he said, hello. I said, what have you been doing? And he said, this is what he said, artificially inseminating my beef cattle. I thought, I am not that kind of girl. Why are you talking about that? So anyway, it's very funny because of course I've made it
right. I
it's
love it.
So I like that story because it's how God works.
Yes, it is. Yes,
works.
that's right. Well, tell us your other signature story. I think I could sit here for days.
Well, I was when I was in the first grade, I was such a tomboy. I mean, I always wore corduroy pants and flannel shirts, and I lost my teeth, and my hair was real short. People thought I was a boy. And I loved playing on the farm. You know, I was raised on a tomato and vegetable farm. And so the high school girls were coming to pick out the cutest little girls to be in a beauty pageant. And I said, oh, that's me. That is me. You know, so I brushed my gums in my teeth, my lips. They never changed size. I grew into them. So I'm happy now, but back then it was sad. And so I remember standing up at the front of the class and thinking they're going to pick me to be the beauty pageant, you know, and they laughed at me. They just snickered and they kept looking at the little diva, you know, who had the Avon tester tube and the stick out dress and the poodle socks and the patent leather shoes and hair was jacked up to Jesus, you know. And I thought, well, she could see Jesus today. I could take her down at the monkey bar. Take her down. What happened to the seesaw? The most fun thing. Hi, you want to be my friend? Bam. I don't want to be your friend. You know, so it was an aggressive thing we could do back then. And so I didn't get picked, and this was the life lesson. One of them is my brother said, we need a fishbowl for the pageant. And so I had a fishbowl and I remember standing up, watching them with the girls in this big old dues and the gorgeous dresses, just glide across the stage and pull a question out of my fishbowl. And the Lord just told me right then, you're going to do that one day. And I thought, how? We have no money. We live in a tented house. My daddy did not finish the 10th grade. I have no teeth. I mean, how is this going to happen? 17 years later, it did happen at Miss America, which was a real miracle. But I was really struggled. I was put in a C-section because of my IQ was extremely low. I became a teacher for dyslexic children. They fired me. They told me I was dyslexic. That was special. I couldn't pass my T or make a high enough score. I took it over and over and over again. I got rejected from colleges, but I kept trying. I mean, Lord just put a desire in my heart. I ended up graduating college. Daddy couldn't send me. He had to send me on cucumber rebate money. And so I persevered and I got my degree, went to graduate school and then Miss America. But, and through that story are more little funny stories, but that signature story, although it's not as funny as the one, how I met my husband, that has such meat and substance to it. And that's why I like, because people look at you and think, oh, you're an author, you're a little beauty queen, you blah, blah, blah. You've had the life of Riley. Oh, no, I had to fight the fear of failure. And I think, like Joyce Meyer said, we do things afraid. We do it afraid. So I do a lot of things afraid. And I mean, if this thing comes through and I get someone who actually wants to make a movie, who knows, out of the book, I mean, it's just another door God has opened. And I didn't know I'd be writing. I got an F in writing. And then I've had some really good, I mean, right now, the Sweet Tea book, it hit #1 in 5 categories and it's still #1. And that's been a month. And it's getting traction and people are loving it. So that blesses me. It's not money. As you know, you don't make money from books.
Right.
But you can make a difference and make people laugh and make people think and make people be challenged to be better. That's how I look at it.
That's awesome. I love that, Jane. That's so many little mic drops there and little sayings that even if it's just, you don't make money, you make a difference. That's huge in my book. And that's also meaningful and impactful in a way that just my own personal gain. Okay, so what? Money doesn't buy happiness. It can't do so many things. And it's really all God's anyway. So, but to think that I might make a difference, that kind of energizes me in a whole new way. I want to know about, can you describe like that typical Southern woman as opposed to any other woman? What are the traits of a Southern woman? I'm kind of curious if I have any of those.
Oh, girl, you got it.
Okay.
Don't you worry.
Yeah, I want to have it.
You in the sisterhood.
Yeah, I don't quite have that draw or that accent.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
You got to have from here up.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all it is. Well, I wrote as part of my book about that. And it's like, I mean, the other day, this woman walked by me and I said, up, Lily dress. She said, I know. She said, Julie Voss. I said, I know. I said, on sale. She said, eBay. I said, real. And so we didn't even know each other. And she was passing by.
Right.
So we could just spot each other. And like this morning, I had a renter. We have some property in Charleston, and I was talking to this renter, and we got off on family. Oh my gosh, did we get off on family? And she told me about this and that, and I said, oh, I got one. And we went. So we don't try to impress each other. We don't sit there and go, oh, I've got this, I've got that. I mean, we're helping each other. And the conversation ended up, I'll pray for you. She said, I'll pray for you. And so, I mean, all of a sudden, everything just comes down in the funnel, and we're just cellophane. We don't try to be something we aren't. We're not putting on. I mean, I sent her a book. I mean, she loved it, and she gets it. And I mean, we're the kind that our daughters. I was at a wedding Saturday night, and I was talking to a friend's daughter, and she said, "Oh, I know, Mom made me wear these big bows that look like a helicopter landed on my head, and the smock dresses." And I said, "Honey, absolutely." And so Caroline's the same way, "Mama, these big bows." I said, "You have to wear it. You have to wear it." And so there's just certain little nuances that we love, that little secrets that are real special to us. And I wrote the book, Victoria, because a lot of this is slipping from our Southern culture. And it was just a reminder of some of the really funny things, like the front porch. We sit on the front porch. We learn life lessons from Cousin Wee Wee and Aunt Fanny. I mean, where they got their names, just scary to even think about. I didn't even want to know. But we have all these crazy relatives' names. And we grow. You see these women sitting on the porch that look like they're going to cut you, but they're just tired because they've been doing everything. So they teach us lessons. We pass it down. I talk about the power of the pressure cooker. We have to learn how to use a pressure cooker. So all of these things are just little nuances in the Southern culture about thank you notes, and don't write a thank you note with the word thank you on the front. Oh my gosh. And you have to have raised thermography, you have to, engrave, whatever. So all that stuff is so crazy because my mother would hold up an invitation when she got it. It would determine the cost of the gift and if she was going. And she had to see the watermark of Crane. That was all we had, Crane. So, all that's so crazy, but all that stuff's in the book and it's funny.
It is funny.
And I make fun of it. I don't say, I act like, oh, it doesn't have Crane on it, trying to make people laugh.
Oh, I love it. I have such good memories of stringing beans on the front porch. There's bushels of beans and I know it's a chore, and they always had the kids do it. But those times with my cousins, with my sister, maybe a grandparent would come out or an aunt or an uncle. And those are they were formative years. And I wouldn't trade those for anything. Family reunions and, Papa's lemonade and just the traditions. And so I wonder, Jane, why are we losing that? Why is that the dynamic of that Southern woman, the Southern culture? What's impacting that, in your opinion? Why is it going away, or why do we need to guard it?
I saw a little graphic on Facebook the other day, and it said, instead of Snapchat, I did snap beans. That was pretty, and that would sit in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I think there's so many young people now that get behind the keyboard and that's their reality. And whereas we use technology, and I think my generation is going, why are these people being so mad over nothing? A lot of anger, a lot of mental challenges these days. I think COVID threw a lot of people in a bad spiral. And I think a lot of people see that the social media world or the Google world is the real world. And that's a shame. And then they don't like to be social. And they don't like, I have these new speakers coming in and they say, what's your best trick for getting engagements? I said, call people. What? I said, yeah, like the phone. And I've had so many clients say, oh my gosh, thank you for reaching out. I hear the voice, I connect it to the social media, and I just think the keyboard cowboys are doing themselves a huge injustice. I think that's part of it. I do think that although Bible reading has been up since COVID, statistically speaking, I think people are not in fellowship. I think it challenged our churches. Fellowship is where it is. Last night, we had our first church fellowship and it was hilarious. We did a tribute to our graduating seniors and I emceed it. It was so much fun. Everybody laughed. They had a ball and the young people just laughed and laughed. And I didn't see one phone come out. Everybody was engaged with the church members who were dressed up like rock stars and Dolly Parton and the whole deal. So I think we have a hybrid situation. There's not one answer. I think it's a lot of different things are challenging our basic Christian values. And so it is of concern. I think we pray a lot for our country and we should stay on our knees. We really should.
That's so good. Where do you see yourself, Jane, in maybe 10 or 15 years?
I hope God gives me the energy to keep doing what I love. And I don't know. I feel like I have another book in me. And I'd like to continue on. This has been a very interesting book that Tyndale has published. This is a hard copy. It's pictures in it. It's got sweet tea secrets, little takeaways, and it's just really up the game of my book writing because it's just a whole different format. It's easy read and it's funny. And then I got somebody else's eyes on it too. Say, oh, add this word, add that word. I'll never not write a book without that again. And so I still hope I'm able to be on the platform and making people laugh. I mean, tomorrow I'm going with a friend. We're doing theater shows. We're doing one at a church. And, it's not the pay I would normally get from my association work, but and I know that her parents, the friend that hired me, is going to be there, and he's got dementia. I just want to love on him. Just the nicest man in the world. So sometimes it's not the check that means just being around the people that you love and have supported you. And the best gifts are the ones that you give and you just don't remember. So that's just kind of give without remembering, and I think that's important.
That's wonderful. Well, I can't wait to dig in a little bit more to your book. I've read several stories and I do love the layout. I thought they did just the copy of that, the publishing, their angles and the graphics, the way it was laid out. I think it's just lovely. They did a great job there at Tyndale. They surely did.
When they asked me for pictures, and my daddy had about 10,000 slides, and I'm no kidding. I went through all of them, pulled out a picture of my granddaddy Goompa, who was so funny, and so I have proof of all those stories.
Yeah.
So that's the good part.
Yeah. And people love stories. Yeah. There's something that's so relatable and that instantly connects us when we hear a story. I've been challenging myself with doing more storytelling on the podcast even, and just, because otherwise it's just blah, 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 blah. And not with a guest. I'm not saying that. My guests are obviously quite entertaining and lively and engaging. But when I'm doing my own expositions, stories capture the attention in a way that just regular, let me share this with you, may not. So I've really been thinking a lot more about storytelling. I love that you have a humor coach. I didn't even know there were such a things as such a thing as humor coaches, but that tells me that you're in your lane and you're doing something God has gifted you at doing, but you also kind of reach out for another perspective on how you might get better. And I think that's a beautiful picture that we can all take away from that. We're going to stay in our lane. We're going to hang on and we're going to keep plowing forward. We're going to have those mentors and the accountability teams and others to help us in the journey, and those 3 close friends that we need to do life with and so forth. So what a wonderful time it's been to just chat with you, Jane. I've laughed my head off here.
I appreciate it. It's been great. And I thank you so much. And I just want to encourage people to just pray, think big, dream, and let the Lord just lead you into the right path.
Amen with that. And where can everyone contact you or reach out to you? How can they stay in touch?
JaneHerlong.com, HERLO, like Herlong hair, HERLONG.com is my website. And you can reach me from there. You can click on the little link and it takes you to all the vendors that have the book, like Barnes and Noble and Books A Million, and some, they carried on the shelves, which I was calling Charleston. I said, y'all have my book? We sold out. I went, you sold out. How many did you order? They said, well, 1. I went, oh, okay, I'll take that. So I can tell my friends I sold out, but I'm not telling them how many.
That's right. I love it. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Jane, and God bless you. I can't wait to see where he's going to take you in all this. So thank you so much for coming on to the Choose to Think Inspirational podcast. We appreciate you. And I'll put all those links and so forth, how the folks can get the books, in the show notes.
Thank you so much.
To wrap, Brain Changer. And until next time, Dios primero y que Dios te bendiga. Ciao.